Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Janis Verzemnieks. Almost close, but that's okay. It's very hard to pronounce my surname. That's almost like my personal brand, thanks to my very Latvian parents. Very nice to be here. And in order to tell you who I am, let me show you a graphic summary of all the core interests, experience, and crazy shit I'm into. So one sentence for every item, okay? Very quickly. I grew up playing with Lego. I was like 8-year-old Lego systems evangelist. And that obsession with Lego bricks in the 90s grew into obsession for Adobe products, and then later to Figma. My career started by accident, kind of, with MySpace, if anyone remembers that social media holy grail for music marketing and the marketing itself. So I was the guy who started basically help my friends to set up customizable, sexy layouts for their profiles. And I did that for money. I learned to play guitar. I started a few garage rock bands, failed with them miserably later. I have listened to Nirvana's Nevermind album for way too many times. Anarchy Symbol was my favorite go-to stencil graffiti to spray on my street corners in my hometown in Latvia. Fast forward, as Clemens already said, I now reside in Spain. My favorite brand today is Liquid Death. You recognize that? It's a so great brand. It's like a bunch of skater guys who are selling water in the most hilarious way possible. This is a weird one. I have an irrational interest on drawing and buying ancient Greek sculptures, like usually scattered when one half of the face is sliced off. So if you know what it means, or should I need to address that in therapy, let me know if you're an expert. One serious book, it's a Turning Point by Fritjof Capra, which addresses the natural systems of life and society. A must read for every maker. My favorite Instagram account, Animals and Synthesizers, don't ask, just check it out. And above everything, Corebookº startup is taking all my time and sanity these days as a co-founder and CEO. And strangely, or luckily enough, Corebookº is kind of combining all these little elements or passions from 90s and give me opportunity to serve branding industry in global scale. Today, I want to talk about some phenomenon, something else that has roots in the 90s, that designers can work on hyper-complex, tokenized design systems, yet when it comes to brand guidelines, they say, like, here's a PDF. And since my presentation title is very dramatic, like death to brand guidelines, that PDF, let's paint everything in black and let's dive into the core story. First of all, I want to say that I understand how that habit of delivering brand guidelines to clients or in-house teams could arise. And in fact, Adobe Systems was the one who brought it into the market in 1993. And 90s was kind of almost like a time of the great battle, because there was other formats which was developed around almost at the same time with the same mission, like Envoy, Digital Paper, Farallon Replica, and DJ Vu. So we were this close that DJ Vu almost became the de facto standard. I find this hilarious. But what was common for all these formats were that by nature they were fixed documents, meant for printing and sharing, not for modifying. So I think that's the most reason, like the biggest problem when we think about the brand guidelines in 2022. It just doesn't make sense. So let me introduce PBF, and to consolidate and capture my learnings, I have gathered a few insights on branding in general, and what's next, in my opinion, for brand systems. I think only the brave brands who are brave enough to experiment will survive in this constant change and battle for people's attention. And here you're looking at Celine Dion wearing ultra-personalized bag. Unfortunately, it's not done by Dior branding team itself, but by the parody Instagram account called Hey Rayleigh, which are very famous for messing around with fashion brands who take themselves too seriously. I think Well, first of all, Dior brand did reshare this post, and after watching the LOL reactions across social media, for me it was clear that this is the future. You know, when you as a brand owner, you don't take yourself too seriously, and you don't take your systems too seriously, because people want to interact with their favorite brands. They want to integrate them into their own lifestyle in a way they see the best fit. Meanwhile, culture is unpredictable, you know, and I think this meme is perfect representation about brands' social media feed. When everyone has their own idea, everyone has their own mind, and again, that triggers the question: what is brand guidelines? Is it a set of rules or a set of defined principles to avoid like future mistakes? Let's keep exploring. And this is very interesting. It caught my attention recently. It's a latest ad campaign for Coke, where the agency behind it kind of redesigned the trademark identity by conceptualizing HUG logo, inspired by obviously the iconic package. And when you think about it, in the past, this would be something found in the do's and don'ts section in the style guide as an example what you shouldn't do with our logo. Like when you sit down and talk with the people in advertising agencies saying, hey guys, do you, but never ever stretch our company logo, goddammit. But I love this so much. I think it's a real life illustration about my point, about the new age of brand creativity. I'm also very inspired by tools like Midjourney and DALL-E. I assume a lot of you guys. And this is Nike swoosh experience concept done by, or experimented by designer Nando Costa. So he used 20 to 30 word prompts to come up with this result in just a couple of hours. So it's AI magic, and if you have experience playing with these tools, you most probably will agree that tools alike will dramatically change the way we do brand creative production. More and more brands are starting to realize that their products itself have iconic or signature sound, which becomes as a part of the brand identity. Some even go further, creating complete sonic style guide identity systems. And as Clement already said, I have also a little bit involved in audio branding projects and geeking out with creating audio logos, or creating sonic style guides and things like that. Although it's the same problem with the visual style guides. They are not used as it should be. You know, there's a lot of very talented, great audio branding agencies. I don't know, maybe laziness more than business it's involved, but they are still, you know, delivering the brand guidelines in PDF and connecting audio files with Dropbox. I think when we look at the industry itself, the new normal is the change, the constant change, and I think I have observed, especially these marketing executives who jump from one organization to another in order to stamp, you know, leave the stamp on the brand and leave kind of legacy in the history of his presence in this organization. I think that's okay, because for creative people, by nature, we want to identify with organizations we are working for. We want to leave the stamp on that and think about the legacy. And consistency gets boring, you know, let's be honest, in a way. So if your organization is facing minor or major rebranding every 3 years, you are forced to think about brand guidelines longevity and your own ego stamp. So I think it's very fair enough to say that brand creativity is the new brand consistency. And I would even say, and go further, and to be brave enough to say that consistency wasn't the goal any in the time of history, because it's all about being consistent with the right things. And when we think about how do the brand guidelines should look, which aspire brand creativity, yet protect something like core style principles about consistency, about being consistent with the right things. And regarding that, I want to talk about something I call brand guidelines porn, or system porn. And I'm also guilty of it. It feels good, I have to admit. So the thing is, if you would follow hashtag brand guidelines on Instagram for a week, you will see so many beautifully crafted brand system pictures. For a moment you will start to believe that, wow, the world is perfect. Every company have the perfect brand guideline system. Everyone is using them before every design decision. All these social media famous agencies are doing their best work for every client, every time. But of course, real life differs a lot. And I get it, As designers, we get irrationally excited when creating systems or about coming up with the brand identity concepts or looking at someone else's work. But in general, I think it's nothing wrong to get inspired, to get through these, scroll through these sexy brand guidelines, screenshots time to time. But let's ground ourselves a little bit. Actually, in fact, after researching this topic, we found out that around 70% of these brand guidelines delivered by hard designers and designers in studios are not used in real life across organizations. And that's a bummer, all this hard work that goes into that. My speculation about future is that in a very close future, every brand kind of will have some sort of modular brand system principles, that whether it's multisensory identity assets or guides for multiple touchpoints and things like that. So in the future, this problem will become even bigger. And as a solution, I don't just want to introduce the digitalization as a solution for everything. Instead, I want to introduce mentality or mindset itself, which I call core loop mentality. And I have defined 4 simple principles, but they are not that simple after all. So first of all, is how you tell the story of brand style guides itself. And it sounds obvious that, of course, I will create the assets, I will visualize them, I will give the context, how they are built and how to use them. But storytelling is the key, to win the hearts of your team and to stick to the principles and come back to the core, come back to the guidelines. Second, just figure it out, file storage system. Big companies, big corporations are famous for buying into all these expensive DAM systems or digital asset management softwares, which at the end of the day, no designer wants to use out on this planet. Third, kickstart collaboration and sharing. Involve more people who can access and give feedback at the right time. And the last, take care of security and access control. There's always some parts for public and some parts only for the boardroom. And not to even mention all these eternal work in progress coming soon sections, which is a normal thing because brand guidelines are never finished, and they shouldn't be. So I think we should approach designing brand guidelines itself, just like we approach building products, with prototyping mindset, irritate everything, gather feedback and things like that. So I like to entertain wild ideas, and here's a few. First is the craziest one. So as you heard, a few years ago, together with partners, we actually took out on a quest to build a new design tool from scratch called Corebookº. And it's been a hell of a journey, It's obviously building something from scratch. And in just 2 years, when we started launching the beta versions, it took a lot of trial and error, and we learned a lot. So here's a few learnings and few insights and tips I want to give you today. First is I want to encourage you to bridge the gap between sensory experience, so audio, motion, video. And here's one example. Earlier this year, we teamed up with Chris Doe and Ben Burns from the future to create or digitize or reimagine their style guide they are selling in their creative market. It was a hit. So we're starting thinking about how to actually make it more interesting, make it more exciting. And we come up with the idea for welcome page when you onboard new users to the template. We created a short memo or voice message when Ben Burns, as the creator of the template design, introduced himself as a human being to other human beings, tell the story how the template is built, how to use it, why Corebookº, why digitalize, and things like that. And it really proved that it could improve the experience itself when you onboard to the template and inspire teams to stick with it. And when you choose online version, you have so much opportunity. Obviously, one thing is embed, just simple as that. When you have embed interactive media, like why not use Loom or similar service to actually record quick videos, how to use that specific asset, or how to use that template, or how to welcome new partners or employees to the guidelines. This is very accurate to the moment when you have to come up with a tone of voice. There's usually enough text for a couple of philosophy books, and that's okay. For branding, we need that. But why not use story Instagram swipe mentality, where we can split longer text into smaller pieces to make it more interactive and more exciting to read. And we have done it many times, and it's just a game changer. My vision in general for brand guidelines is that they shouldn't be just a place or portal where you come to read rules or download files. It should become like a collaborative meeting space where everyone in the team comes to collaborate on branding projects. And this is one example as a teaser with our one very good friend of our company, Maki Saturday, who is running his own studio in New York. So they stopped doing all these do's and don'ts, like classical, old school, this is right, this is wrong, this is black, and this is white. Instead, what we call, they are practicing creative pairing. And this is a very good example where you can show what is the potential combination of colors, where in the spectrum of brand creativity you are. There's never just right and wrong. This is a very interesting finding. Obviously, we know the designers are very busy in this fast-paced branding industry. Also, we are a little bit lazy, but you would be surprised how many designers actually steal your logo from the company website, in order to create as soon as possible to create and finish the poster or something like that, quick Instagram post. So again, instead of trying to change their habits, like saying, "Oh man, you're living so wrong," instead maybe we can create something like, when the user comes to the website and right-clicks on the mouse, then the pop-up with a bubble comes up and say, "Hey, looking for brand logo? Here's the brand guidelines." Boom, online style guides. And that leads to contextual download, which is very important. Even if we have structured and practiced very good at creating beautiful, functional style guides, usually designers add attachments with all the logos, like, "Hey, download all the logos so that as a bunch, there's a zip file." Instead, when you have online version, you can contextually add download button where the asset is actually visualized without losing context to the related guidelines and philosophy, because it's branding. And the feedback, I think, when we agreed that we need prototype these guidelines, and it's not about just building something beautiful for the world. Feedback is very important. You have to come up with the ideas how to ask these hard questions. Is my guidelines actually used? Are my company and all the team within is actually excited to come up with, come back to the guidelines and use assets and not looking for shortcuts? And we are here at Corebookr, we are experimenting with integrations. For example, like with Figma, we are trying to actually also bridge gap between whiteboard softwares like Miro. And this has been a very good idea, to integrate brand guidelines itself as a platform where you can come and see the collaboration aspect of the workflow, where you can see that, we had this crazy idea for a branding post, or the messing around with Coca-Cola new trademark logo, hug. And there you can see all the history, all the archives of how that idea came to life. And I call that #brand 2025, because here at Corebookr, we're on a big mission. We try to ensure that by the year 2025, PDF is dead, and we are looking for a better experience. And that's why, together with my team, we are actually putting together a short ebook or publication, call it whatever we want, and especially using this conference, to come up with interesting ideas about how to improve the experience of brand guidelines. So if anything triggered or anything touched a string or two from my talk today, please scan this code and let's chat, because modern branding teams deserve better brand identity system experience. For that, my last words are thank you, and I think if we have time for questions, I'm off for it.